Good morning. Thanks for tuning in to the Kehillat Shari Torah Halacha Review for Thursday, March 11th. We're talking about the steps of the Seder. After drinking the cup of Kiddush, we wash our hands without saying a bracha and dry them. So we take a container of water, some kind of a vessel that holds at least 3 ounces. Most of them hold 15, 18, 20 ounces probably. Pick it up with the right hand, pass it to the left, wash the right hand 3 times, wash the left hand 3 times. As we always do when we're beginning a meal before we make a motzi, except this time we do not say the bracha al natilas yadayim. We are going to do that procedure and say the bracha later on after Magid, before we actually eat the bread, which is matzah in this case. However, here the reason we're doing it is because of a caution for tumah. When foods are dipped in liquids, they become susceptible to tumah, to ritual impurity. So there is an opinion in the halachic literature that one should wash one's hands before eating any food that is dipped in liquid. Now, most of the year, when you dip your cookie in milk, when you dip your donut in coffee, when you dip your pita in tchina, whatever happens to be, you'll notice most people are not particular to wash their hands first, which is fine. Many opinions hold that you don't need to do that. Particularly in our days. However, since we are trying to do things a little bit differently, we are trying to mix things up a little bit so that the children at the Seder, even if it's our own inner child, will ask and say, hey, what are we doing this for? So we have instituted this step of rachza, of orchatz, of washing our hands and drying them, not saying a bracha. Then we take a piece of karpas, which could be onion, potato, parsley, any such vegetable like that. Less than a kazayah, so we don't have to make an after bracha over it. We dip the portion in salt water and we make a bracha, Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, borei peri hadama, blessed are you God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the ground. Then we have in mind when we're making that bracha that the maror, the bitter herb that we're going to eat later on, whether be it horseradish or romaine lettuce or endive or a combination thereof, is going to be included in that bracha. We lean to the left as we did with the kiddush. And we move on to the next step, which is yachatz. The leader of the Seder, or anyone who has a stack of 3 matzahs before them, takes the middle matzah, breaks it into 2 parts, placing the larger part near their seat for the afikoman. The smaller half remains between the 2 whole matzahs, higher and lower. Customary to wrap the afikoman in a napkin, and some people say the leftover dough was wrapped in their clothes, quoting from the 12th chapter of Exodus, because if you recall, when we left Egypt, if you don't recall back that far, so certainly you've heard it in the story, maybe you've seen the film, we wrapped the dough in our clothing, some placed it on their shoulders to recall the actual Exodus going out from Egypt. The afikoman, this piece of matzah that we've set aside, is going to take the place of the korban pesach, of the paschal sacrifice, so it is most esteemed and the larger portion is set aside. And we continue then with reciting the Haggadah, which begins with Halach Ma'anya. This is the bread of affliction that our ancestors ate in Egypt. L'shana haba b'nei charin. This year we're still slaves. Next year may we be free, and so on. Okay. After that, we fill the second cup of wine, and someone asks Manishtana, why is this night different than all other nights? Now, customary to have the youngest person at the Seder recite the 4 questions. Very nice. Anyone can do it. Male, female, child, adult, anyone who's able to ask the questions can do it. Some people like to go around and ask in different languages. Some people ask the 4 questions all together. As long as those questions get posed in some form or other, that is the important thing. We answer with Avadim Hayinu, we were slaves, and we go through the Haggadah and we give an answer basically to the question about why is this night different than all the other nights. Let's see, what notes do they have in here? If you don't understand Hebrew, you should use a Haggadah that has a translation, and after saying each paragraph in Hebrew, if you're able, you repeat the translation, particularly the part that says Rabban Gamliel, Rabban Gamliel used to say that anyone who hasn't explained these 3 things, Pesach, Matzah, Maror, hasn't fulfilled their obligations. When we say V'hi Sha'amda, this promise has stood for us in every generation. We cover the matzahs, we pick up the wine, and we say the paragraph V'hi Sha'amda. When we say matzah zu, this matzah, some people take the half matzah from the Seder plate and show it to the family, others point to it or hold it Maror zeh, we lift up the maror or put our hands on the maror and indicate that this is the bitter herb we're speaking about. However, when we say Pesach Shahaya Avoseinu Oichlim, that the Pesach, the Korban Pesach, the Paschal sacrifice that our ancestors used to eat, we do not point to it or raise it up because we don't want to appear that this itself is the actual Korban Pesach, because we are careful to use a chicken or some other animal that is not roy lemizbeach, that's not appropriate to, that's not fit for actual sacrifices in the temple. We're careful to avoid that getting too close. It's a symbol and remains a symbol and doesn't become the actual thing. Okay, we finish out what it says in the Haggadah about the telling the story, Magid, and we cover the matzahs. Each person takes their cup in hand and raises the cup of wine, saying the 2 chapters of Hallel, and we finish with the bracha, Baruch Atah Hashem, Ga'al Yisrael, blessed are you God, who redeemed Israel. Everyone says the bracha B'rei Pri Agafen over their cup of wine and drinks the cup, again, reclining to the left. Okay, that takes us through Magid. Please tune in tomorrow and we'll continue talking about the next steps of the Seder. Have a good day.